Good morning, guys. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Friday, September the 20th, 2024, and what a night of boxing last night. I'm referring to the Wildfighter / No Limit show from the Pullman Hotel in Melbourne, and congratulations to Will Tomlinson. Fantastic first up show from him. I know he's done a fair few shows in the past, but not on a platform like Fox Sports. I know he's been looking to get on the platform for quite some time, so I think he more than delivered. I must admit I wasn't overly informed, I suppose, about the card. I did look at it and I went, okay, yeah, okay. Malia and Horn, serviceable fight as a main event, but I looked at the undercard and I wasn't really familiar with a lot of the fighters on there, but geez, what a bunch of great matchups. Even the first fight they showed, I think it was only the last round and a half they showed. I mean, even that was all action, and then we got into the main card. I thought the venue looked good for TV. It's a little boutique-y type of venue. Maybe they could put some banners or something up in the background on one of the walls because it's a bit plain, but look, apart from that, I'm being a little bit picky, of course, but the fights themselves, really enjoyed them. The main event, of course, Jason Malia with a 10-round decision over Ben Horn for the Australian welterweight title. Look, good matchup for Jason. I think that was his 10th fight last night. Thought he boxed well. Look, he's still got to work on a lot of things. I think he did get caught unnecessarily a few times, just a few little things that he did. But look, Ben Horn, look, he's got a losing record, but he's always one of those guys that shows up, puts it all on the line. Look, let's not beat around the bush. He's probably a limited fighter, but you need guys like him in the sport who turn up and fight the Jason Malias of the world as they build their records and give them experience, give them a tough fight. They're not going to lay down. They're going to turn up in shape and with attitude and try and win the fight. And even though he's a real spoiler, Ben Horn, you know, he's one of those guys that as I said, is really serviceable and helpful in building the careers of fighters like Jason Malia. And as I said, I thought Jason needs to work on a few different things. As I said, he did get caught with a few unnecessary punches, in my opinion. But when you've got someone like Ben Horn who is just all over the place as far as his style goes, and that's not being detrimental to Ben Horn. I'm just saying it as it is. I'm sure if you watch the fight, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But I just thought sometimes his reactions to certain things that Ben Horn did probably show that he's got I won't say a long way to go, but he definitely needs to work on some stuff in the gym. Look, this guy was a very good amateur. I remember him back about 8 or 9 years ago, and he a very good amateur. He looked good skills, very good trainer, by the way. Excuse me there. Very good trainer, Cal Bryant. Though he was getting called Kelvin last night by Ben Damon. Ben obviously doesn't know him that well. It's Ben, it's Cal, not Calvin. For all that's his long name, but he goes by Cal. But yeah, Cal's got a lot of experience. If you don't know a lot about him, he was the Victorian state coach for a long time, and a really good guy as well. Down at the Collingwood gym in Melbourne. But yeah, so I just thought, I'll grab him there. So yeah, I just thought good performance from Jason. I think he adjusted pretty well as the fight went on, but yeah, it was probably a little bit harder than maybe that it should have been. But it's all a learning curve, and I'm sure he will benefit out of that fight last night, and not just by the fact that Ben Horn was standing in front of him, just the fact he's a main event. It's a TV show, there's a lot more pressure, and I think maybe you could just sort of sense that a little bit, that sometimes he tried a little bit hard, but you know, to get the job done and impress. But that's why they call it experience, and I'm sure he's gonna be okay. The only probably I won't say it's a doubt, but the asterisk I've got to put beside Jason is that he's 29 years of age. I think he needs look, he might need another 6, 7, 8 fights before he really steps up. If he wants to go international, that is. He's got, again, a long way to go, but, you know, he could be in his early 30s by the time he's actually at, you know, at the stage where he's ready to step up. So that's probably the only thing. But look, they might decide to fast track him. They might decide to just roll the dice and chuck him in with someone that is world ranked a little bit earlier, just to see whether he's going to have what it takes or not. So either way, look, I thought, as I said, Jason really adjusted well. Ben Horn, the only thing I'll say about Ben, I'm just not quite sure how often they can keep rolling him out as the opponent. You know, I've got a lot of respect for him, a lot of admiration for him, the way that he does just roll up and fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, and that's great. But he does take a lot of punches, a lot of punishment. So let's just hope he's just not continually rolled out as that opponent, and we have a situation like a Reynold Quinlan, where it was you know, Reynold was a really good fighter in his day, but really just ended up becoming just a journeyman who was just pretty much battered by all the young kids coming up. So I'm sure with Glenn Rushton in his corner and his brother Jeff, I'm sure they'll look after him and decide you know, the appropriate action with Ben. But a good serviceable opponent. One thing I will say though, I don't know, after the fight he probably carried on a little bit. He wasn't happy. He was shaking his head, making some gestures with his hands as the decision was getting announced. I don't know in what universe he actually thought he won that fight, because I think the official scores were, what was it, 8 rounds to 2. And the other one was 10 rounds to 0. Look, that's probably one I don't agree with. I thought that Ben Horn did win a couple of rounds, maybe 3 tops, maybe. But I don't know what he was thinking, getting a little bit cut up afterwards, thinking that he actually won the fight. But I suppose that's just the norm in boxing these days, isn't it? None of us have ever lost a fight. We've all been ripped off our whole careers, haven't we? So, but no, that was ended up being a good main event. The rest of the card I was really impressed with. The main support, which was it Lilo Talapay and Luke Gersbeck. The winner, in my opinion, it's only September, but I think he's got the worst haircut award stitched up. I think Luke Gersbeck. He obviously wanted to make a statement on the TV, and I get that. But I think Luke probably needs to focus more on honing his skills, his defence, his kit of punches, rather than haircuts and playing to the crowd and smiling and everything else. But he ran into a really good young kid. I was really impressed with Lilo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, by the way. I'll say Lilo, it's not Lilo, or but I think Lilo Talapay, 19 years of age, and I think Gersbeck was 30. So really impressed with him. Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do, but he's got the you know, the framework there. He's young. He's full of energy, and you know, he loves. You can see that he loves to fight. So yeah, look, I'm not sure he's the type of opponent that maybe Nikita Tszyu will look at anytime soon. But he's the type of guy I think that could really make some waves in the 154-pound division as well. Yeah, look, Gersbeck, I will say, was okay. He's definitely got potential, but he just has to focus more on, you know, keeping that chin down and just working on a few different things in the gym, and don't worry about, you know, the modelling contracts and the flash haircuts and all that sort of stuff. But he's at 30 years of age. I'm not quite sure how far he can go. I think he'd been talking before the fight that he might you know, maybe put himself forward as maybe a potential Nikita Tszyu opponent. I don't think that's obviously going to happen, especially now. But Talapay, really impressive, and I like him. And I think, as I said, I think he's going to make some waves in that 154-pound division. So keep an eye out for Lilo Talapay. The other fights, Joel Taylor and what was his name? Geez, I'll have to pull out my phone here. Who did he fight? The young Japanese guy. Hang on, I'll just get my phone here and bring it up. That's, of course, now I've lost it. Good young Japanese fighter. I thought he looked the goods in the first couple of rounds. I thought he was very impressive. Sorry, I'll just bring it up here. What was his name? Probably doesn't bring up his name. No, it doesn't. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. Good young kid. I think he'd only had, one fight, I think. And Joel Taylor, pretty experienced. I don't think it was the most impressive performance from from Joel Taylor, but I think his opponent had a lot to do with that. The only thing, like Joel, after those first couple of rounds where it was a little bit shaky, I thought he adjusted well. I think he was the aggressor, but for me, he didn't cut the ring off really pretty much at all. Didn't really get any momentum during the fight at all. He pretty much just followed his opponent around the ring for the whole night and really just got the nod by pure work rate, and well, not really even work rate, just the aggression and control in the ring. So he's a good young kid, Joel. He's only 24, I think, so he's got plenty of time, but he needs to work on things like that when an opponent doesn't want to engage or is a little bit awkward or pretty slick. I just don't think he adjusted, or his corner adjusted very well to the situation. But he's got a lot of upside, Joel. He's a tough young kid, always comes prepared, always comes to fight. So I'm sure he'll be okay, but he has to work on that when an opponent is a little bit reactive and tentative, how to actually turn it on and get those type of guys out there. Because as I said, his opponent only had one fight, so relatively inexperienced. And I would have thought that Joel, after those first 2 rounds, should have been able to adjust and really put it on his opponent later in the fight. Now the other fights. Who was it? Billy Polkinghorne, predictable win over, is it Camare, I think it was? I should have it there, but yeah, look, just a predictable win for Billy. It was a late notice fight. It was great to get him on the card, and he's a good, I won't say young, because he's not, I think is he 27, 28 or something like that, I think. But no, he's a very, very slick fighter, Billy, and I think he's definitely the type of fighter that could be fast-tracked into some bigger fights straight away. So really impressive, good kid of punches. It was pretty predictable. I thought Billy, won the first round pretty clearly, but Camare, I think it is, he definitely had some success and then got careless and got caught. I just saw the writing on the wall when, being the Muay Thai background, the defense wasn't there, reaction to punches just wasn't there. He's throwing the punches out and they weren't coming back to his chin, and his chin was sort of hanging up in the air there and very reactive. And that's just the way the Muay Thai fighters fight. They're more sort of laid back, laconic, and they really rely on the knees and the kicks and elbows and that sort of stuff. They don't really, I don't think, pay a lot of attention to the skill of defense and the IQ of boxing, I suppose. And Billy Polkinghorne's got all that, and as soon as he started to find his range, it was only a matter of time, and it's a really good finish. And look, he just did what he had to do. He got him in trouble, hurt him, and then got him out of there quick, smart, and that's what good fighters do. And I was, as I said, I was really impressed with Billy. And in the other fight, this is the one that had me scratching my head a little bit. Blake Wells and I think it was Apu Cook. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. I thought Cook won the fight. I'm not sure what you think. I thought that Blake Wells he boxed well and he looked good at middleweight. I think that's his division, I really do. I just thought that Cook, just a tough, young, hungry fighter. I like him. I like him as well, and I think he's going to really cause some damage in his career as well. Again, I think he's only 21. I think he was, but I thought he dominated the fight. I thought Blake Wells boxed well, but didn't really. I know he did knock Cook down, by the way, but that was a good shot. But I just thought, apart from that, I thought that Cook dominated in close. I thought he hurt Wells repeatedly. I thought he just outworked him, and I actually had it. I thought it could have been 5 rounds to 3 for me for Cook, if not 6 rounds to 2. That's just the way I had it. But either way, even with the knockdown, I had Cook winning that fight. So again, I don't know how you had it. I'm sure there's going to be either way, but the fact I think the scores, look, they were close. So I think all 3, actually I think 2 of the judges had it 4 rounds apiece, but gave it to Wells because of the knockdown. The other judge had it for Cook. He would have had it 5 rounds to 3, and the knockdown had him winning by a point. But yeah, look, I just, as I said, can't see a way that, in my opinion, that Blake Wells won that fight. I know he had his moments, but for me, Cook won it So let us know your opinion. But look, I'll say it again for Will and all concerned. I think it was a great first up performance from him, or first up effort. And I also take my hat off to No Limit, who have probably realised that putting on all the pay-per-views, and they're putting on the No Limit on Fox shows, and trying to organise fights for their fighters in big fights overseas and all that sort of stuff. It's a lot of hard work, so I applaud them for understanding that it's going to be tough to do these little shows, and probably give them as much love as they need to, and outsource them and work in with guys like Will Thompson. I think it's a very, very good decision, and we got the result last night that we had Will, who had a really good card all pretty much ready to go. They probably added a few fighters, of course, and gave Will the resources and probably some connections and a little bit of media and all that, and of course the platform to put his show on. So I think it's a win-win all round. And yeah, as I said, a good decision by No Limit to realise that it's tough putting on so many shows. And look, these guys aren't Top Rank or any of the, or Golden Boy, you know, so they don't probably have the, you know, just the team of people that put these shows on. So again, I think it's good they've outsourced to guys like Will, and who knows who might be next. There might be other promoters around the country they might do the same with, a little bit like what Angelo DiCarlo's also done with the Premier Boxing Series with other promoters as well. But speaking of No Limit, again, look, I've been critical of them in the past, but hats off to them again in a situation where they've now got the Andre Mikhailovich and Janibek fight in Australia in 2 weeks' time. Can you believe that? 2 weeks' notice. They've won the purse bid and they've said, all right, let's go. 2 weeks. I just think that is awesome. They could have easily just, because Mikhailovich is not a big fighter in Australia. Let's face it, he's a Russian based in, or raised in New Zealand, so he's not very familiar to a lot of the Aussie boxing fans. And the fact they've said, no, we're gonna get that fight. We're gonna put it on in Australia. It's free, world title fight. Let's just let's look after our fighters. They could have easily just said, oh, we'll just let Top Rank or something reschedule it, or someone else, you know, get that fight on overseas whenever they're ready. And you know, we got bigger things going on to be worrying about putting on a fight card within 2 weeks. But they've looked after the fighter. They've backed their fighter, they've won the purse bid, and they're going to put it on in Australia on short notice. So yeah, so very, very good by No Limit looking after their fighters. And one last thing, actually just on that, by the way, I did see Michael Zarafa at the fights last night, and I won't dwell too much on him, but who knows, maybe it might not be the Nikita Tszyu situation with Michael. I know that's what everyone wants, and probably No Limit wants it because that's where probably the money will be. But if Mikhailovich wins that belt, could we see Mikhailovich and Zarafa? Now that is a ripper fight for the IBF world title. Now, does Michael Zarafa deserve a world title fight after what happened in Vegas earlier in the year, and even the Tommy Brown fight? Absolutely not. But it would be a really, really good fight. I think the build up to that fight would be awesome. You thought Isaac Hardman and Zarafa was fiery. I think Mikhailovich and Zarafa would even top that. I think it would be a really, really good build up, and I think it would be a really good fight, really well matched against each other. I think the styles would really contrast each other really, really well, and I would probably prefer to see that fight than Michael against Nikita. Now, I don't think the Tim and Zarafa fight will ever happen. I think Tim has well and truly moved on from that. But yeah, I don't know what you think, but I think Michael and Mikhailovich would be more appealing than Nikita. But anyway, that's just a side note. And one last thing, I did see the king of boxing has been confirmed. Canelo Alvarez, with all his detractors and everything like that, reports that his last fight did 750,000 pay-per-view buys, which I think from memory was what was it? Was it I think it was $90 or something over there. So it was like $68 million or something through, or something like that anyway, with the revenue plus a $22 million gate. And I was there, and I can tell you that place was rocking. So that's at about a $90 million performance plus sponsors and all that sort of stuff. So he made his, I think, $50 million out of it, Canelo. So with all his detractors and everything going against him, I just still think it's undisputed that he is still the king of boxing as far as being the face and the appeal and all that sort of stuff. So come at me if you will. I know there's a lot of people on either side of the fence, but you can't take that away from Canelo, that he is the man, and that was up against the UFC as well. So yeah, on the same night at the Sphere. And I didn't really, when I was in Vegas, I didn't see anything about the UFC at all. It was Canelo everywhere. So take that as you will. I'm not quite sure. Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh with all the puffing the chest out saying they were going to bury Canelo's event. I think there was one clear winner on the night, and it was Canelo. And I don't think the UFC helped themselves either, by the way, with the card. I mean, I didn't really know much about any of the fighters on the card, except is it O'Malley with his coloured hair? For a fight card on Independence Day weekend for the Mexicans, I think they fell really, really short and probably got a little bit ahead of themselves, if I'm being honest, as far as just expecting the event to be a massive success just because of where they put it. So although they cut to that woman in the undercard of the fight, wow, that is the worst cut I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, check it out on YouTube or wherever it is. But that was a shocking cut. But anyway, guys, that is it for today. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.